Hi, Kim.
A few times during the presentation for comments and discussions. Please familiarize yourself below with the chat box and with the chat box reaction features. Resources will be dropped into the chat. FPA's CEU credits for your PEP credentialing will also be dropped in. Please type in your questions, your comments in the chat box during this training. Dr. Banilivy will be pausing from time to time during this training to answer them. If for any to your questions, please contact the presenter. The contact information is at the bottom of the PowerPoint. This training is being recorded, and the PowerPoint handouts will be posted on our website at ftnys.org. We are asking you to stay on and fill the survey evaluation at the end of this presentation.
Excuse me, but you're muted.
You.
Hi, Cheryl. I'm sorry, you were muted. Could you start over?
I'll start over. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again. Thank you, Barbara, for the housekeeping rules. Now, I would like to tell you just a little about Dr. Max Banilivy, because we have known Dr. Max Banilivy for quite a few years. He has, personally, I've known him for over 18 years. Dr. Max Banilivy has presented at our symposiums. He is presented at various places throughout New York State. The relationship that we have with Dr. Max Banilivy is like amazing, and it's priceless. So we're happy that he's here with us and he's willing to do this training today. So just a little about him, because his portfolio is extensive. So we wouldn't really be giving him any credit in just, trying to read the whole portfolio. He's the Director of Clinical Training, Education, and Internship Programs at Well Life Network in New York City and here in Long Island also. His education at the highest level includes postdoctoral training in eating disorders, family therapy at the Harvard School, Children's Hospital, and Judge Baker Guidance Center. Dr. Banilivy specialty areas include, but not limited to, clinical training of mental health professionals, coping and resiliency, couples, marriage, sex therapy, self-injury and assessment, management and preventive of suicide through training and education. Now, Dr. Banilivy, he speaks widely on a variety of topics. Dr. Banilivy is currently spending much of his time regionally as well as the state and national level training the community members and professionals on suicide risk identification, prevention, intervention, and postvention. He has published and served on the boards of professional organizations. Dr. Banilivy was the co-chair of the Consortium of Suicide Prevention Trainers for New York State until 2015, which focused on education and training for suicide prevention. He is also on the executive board of the Suicide Prevention Coalition of Long Island, which is SPCLI, having developed a website and being responsible for the coordination of trainings and education for the region. An annual suicide prevention conference is organized as part of the focus of this board. He has been recognized for his work in field of suicide prevention by the Living Works organization as the Trainer of the Year in 2009 and by New York State Suicide Prevention Center in 2011 for excellence in suicide. Dr. Banilivy, it's such an honor and such a pleasure to have you here today. So now I will turn it over to you, and thank you for your continued support.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does everyone hear me?
If you can just put it in the chat, so I want to make sure that you can hear me. Cheryl, thank you very much. Thank you for the organization, Families Together. And thank you for pulling this together as a very important topic that many families, individuals are actually having in mind, particularly in view of what us as a nation and globally have been dealing with regard to COVID and the pandemic and the many challenges that's put forth. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of resilience and approach it really from an angle that we can all participate in. And that is the format is going to be where I'm going to try to share some concepts and ideas with you for the next 45 minutes or so of the training. Then we're going to break into breakout rooms, and the participants today will be randomly assigned to those rooms. And there will be some questions that will be posed by parent advisors that are going to be in those groups that hopefully everybody will participate in. The intention really is behind that is for you to take your own ideas and knowledge, as well as what we are going to be presenting today, and try to respond and participate in a conversation for about 40 minutes or so, or 45 minutes, where we can all discuss as to how we have tried to cope in view of the crisis, and also come up with some ideas and suggestions. So once those conversations take place, and for about 45 minutes, we're going to come back together as a big group, and we're going to report out on the breakout rooms with regard to what the conversations and discussions and answers were to some of the questions you were asked. And toward the end of the training, what we're going to do, we're going to try to talk together as to where we go from here, understanding what it takes to raise resilient children, as well as for ourselves in terms of becoming more resilient, because challenges in our lives do not stop coming. Challenges are part of life, and all of us, we deal with it and cope with it going forward. So I'm hoping that together, in terms of our conversations and discussions, we can actually come with some sort of a goal for ourselves individually to go forward after the presentation, which is roughly about 3 hours long. What we have done for you is that we have, as you see on your screen, we have pulled together a very extensive resource list. I strongly urge you to, I believe that you were all distributed the form. If you haven't, just let us know, we will send it to you. If you go through it, I'm going to just kind of try to, I have Kim, and I want to thank her, actually, our IT person who's assisting me. So we're going to go through this and show you the first page. We have a list of videos for you. And if you go further from that, and we have some charts, and we certainly have some articles. And if you go further, and you'll see there are some websites and also books for you. So it really covers all bases with regard to any information that you may need with regard to the resiliency and how to raise resilient children and how to become more resilient in general. So I'm hoping that you will take a few minutes to review this. Thank you very much, Kim. So if there are no
Dr.
questions-
Banilivy, I want to point out to the attendees that at the top of the chat box, there is a link to these resources for those of you who registered late and did not get the packet. Okay.
Thank you very much, Kim. Thank you. So if we are ready, I'm going to get started with the PowerPoint with the first part of our presentation today. So I think Kim is helping us with us, or Kim, do you need me to pull it up?
Okay, so I can screen share the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Also, as Kim pulling up the PowerPoint, I want to tell you we've also embedded, with Kim's help, we have embedded some videos that I'm hoping that will be helpful and it will be relevant for you. Really, the intention of this training is to kind of share with you some material that are relevant or knowledge-based that you can make relevant for yourself. Thank you again for being part of this presentation. So there we go. Okay. Thank you, Kim. All right. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. So building resilience, I'm going to approach it developmentally. So I'm going to go to, if you go to the first slide. Okay. So what is resilience? You know, I'm going to pause a little bit and ask you to yourself to define it. I want you to define it for yourself. When you think about the word resilience, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Just, I'm going to pause a little bit. And if you thought about it, great. Now we're going to go forward. All right. So if we can go to the next slide, please. All right. So here we're going to watch a very brief video on resilience, so we can all get started on at the same place. Okay. So we can watch the video, please. And as I'm sure most of you know, that there are pauses when you are dealing with the Zoom presentation. Go.
Resilience is not some magical quality. It's something that really can be built, even in difficult circumstances.
The key active core ingredient to building resilience are the relationships kids have to others who care about them.
Of course, families play a very important role, but nobody raises children in isolation. We have a huge amount of research to show the powerful impacts of teachers, coaches, other adults in the community with whom children have a chance to develop relationships, who play that critical supportive role of building resilience. As a result of responsive interaction, children build simple skills of coping and adapting. How to stop crying, how to regulate your behavior, being able to defer gratification.
You have an adaptive toolkit that allows you at moments of stress or challenge to bring out a number of potential skills that allow you to get through it.
As children get older, the sophistication of those skills increases. Being able to monitor situations, solve problems. The way we as a society can nurture the development of resilience is to help communities to pay more attention to building the capabilities of the adults who care for children and provide the supports they need to tip the scales toward more positive life outcomes.
And then when communities say, we want to be an active part of crafting the solution to really understand what's necessary to produce the resilience, that's when the ball gets rolling.
Resilience building, capacity building, is really in everyone's interest, and everyone reaps the benefits when we do that well.
Thank you, Kim. That video is in your list of resources, so you can go back to it and listen to it again. All right, thank you. We can go to the next slide. All right, so let me just move. All right, so how do we define resilience? Psychologists define resilience as a process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. Needless to say, what we have gone through in the last year and a half has been a lot of stress, right? Such as, and also, stresses as in family and relationship problems, serious health problems, workplace, and financial stressors. Next, please. So resilience, another way to look at it is that resilience is not static. It's not that it's just the one thing that happens in somebody's life and it makes them resilient or not. It's really a process that develops over time, from toddlerhood and infancy on for the rest of our lives. It really never stops. That means that it's just one of the things we want to keep in mind, that this is not something that ends at some point, is that we just, if we want to, and if we pay attention to it, and almost unconsciously, that it just continues to grow and develop and get more improved, if indeed we do certain things in terms of as a way of dealing with stress and challenges in life. So resilience is a dynamic process. So that dynamic it comes about as a result of interactions that we have with people, with the environment, with many different circumstances in our lives, by which we overcome these such stressful or traumatic events while maintaining relatively normal physical and psychological function over time. Next, please, Kim. So resilience is about how we navigate and recover well through it all. So at this point, I want to kind of pause a little bit, ask all of us on this and say, I want you to think, because we're going to talk about this in your breakout rooms, is that how have we navigated the stressful situations in the past? How do we navigate the COVID? And how do we think that we have recovered from this tragic events that have happened in our lives, at least in the lives of many people in the last year, or for some of us over the course of our lives? Many of us may have experienced very tragic events. Next, Kim. Resilience is more than the ability to bounce back. Very often when you look at the definition for resilience, it says the ability to bounce back. So think about it this way, is that for you and I, and for the kids, if you have children or for children in general, is that bouncing back depends on certain skills, right? We just automatically can bounce back. We bounce back because there is some resource that allows us to do that. Next, Kim. It's related to those inner resources, coping skills, and the ability to activate psychological immunity, very much like white blood cells. So if we stop and think about what is the purpose of white blood cells, we're all born with it. We're all born with it, and we all have them, and they work, basically generally work well as a way of protecting us as immunity against bacteria and viruses or any trauma that comes to our body. So if we think about resilience as kind of an analogous to the white blood cells, I want you to think about when we raise kids, in what way we help them emotionally and socially and psychologically to develop the the concept and the experience, the stigmas, the schemas that are built through development to become more capable of handling pressure or stress. Even when we talk about stress, same event in our lives doesn't affect us the same way. Events that happen, let's take, unfortunately, an event that is very common is that people breaking up relationships or going through divorce or separation. Not everybody experiences the same way. Not everybody gets traumatized because they're going through a divorce. Some people do. Some people get emotionally tremendously affected by that. So as we certainly know that us as adults do not get affected by the same event the same way. The same thing applies to kids. Kids go through, and I want to give you an example. Let's say two kids, same age, more or less, they're learning to ride a bike. And when they start riding a bike, very often, most of us know that, kind of we fall down once in a while, right? We may get scraped, our knees may be scraped, or maybe even bleed a little bit, and so on. I want you to think about those two kids that start to ride a bike, and one, once he or she falls down, starts crying and goes back home and leaves the bike on the street. And I want you to think about the other one who just may cry even, stands there, just kind of cleans the wound a little bit, and takes the bike and starts getting back on it again. I want you to pause at this point because this is fundamental when it comes to resilience. I want you to think about, okay, what's the difference? What's the difference in these two individuals? What does one have that allows that child, he or she, to stay there, tolerate the pain, actually take care of himself or herself, and get back on the bike, and the other one runs home to get some reassurance and cry some more and get some attention appropriately, right? So could we say that the person who just got back on the bike was able to self-soothe to some extent? And the one who ran home to get some self-soothing from a significant other, parent, older sibling, or what have you, or a grandmother, and say, oh, this happened to me, right? So I'm kind of describing this for us to really, at the very beginning of life, to think about, well, maybe there are some inherent differences, right? There are some genetics here that we're dealing with, but there are certain things that are clearly learned, and they are learned through interaction with the environment, through parenting, that may allow that one child to kind of go back in their head and do some self-soothing on their own. This is not simple, and this is not something we can tangibly touch, but there are clearly at this point, we can go forward and saying, there are some even differences much early, very early in life, even in preschool years, right? Whether it's the falling off the bike, or about one kid that is trying to climb up the slide from the bottom, going up, and slides down one time, and then just gives up, right? And there is another child that slides down a few times, but persists and perseveres to go forward, and finally, sooner or later, gets to the top. Would you say the child that got to the top actually had the focus and just focusing on the ultimate goal, and not being distracted by the fact that it slides down and maybe gets in the mud and gets dirty and gets disappointed and feels like it has failed that first time? Again, what is the difference between these two young children, both preschoolers, handling that same event very, very different. Could we go forward, please, Kim? So resilience, again, is about elasticity, right? The ability to adjust and bend without breaking. So I'm presenting it definitionally from a very different angle to make all of us think about what is this elusive thing that we call resiliency, right? Particularly because of the pandemic, we are hearing it all the time, to become resilient. We're talking about it all the time in schools, everywhere, among us. Who has been more resilient? Who has had a more difficult time being affected the same way? Not having any kind of a tragic losses or anything else, but our life has changed. So could we talk about resiliency as a way to also respond to any changes in life, right? So I want you to think, if you have kids, how did your kids respond at the very beginning of the pandemic to school being interrupted, staying home, not going to the supermarket, even wearing masks, right? Many profound changes. How did your kids and how did we respond and react to it? Do you think that had something to do with how resilient we were before? And you're going to get a chance to talk about that. So yes, I think there are some of they're clearly part of what children learn about becoming resilient has to do with what we model for them, right? How they see the significant others in their lives, including peers and including siblings, how they're watching all the time, how they are dealing with the situation, right? So let's go forward, please.
Dr. Banilivy, we have one question in the chat. Should we read it now?
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, this is from Kathleen. It says, I feel that sometimes our children respond the way that we do. If we stay calm and positive, it may reflect in the way our children respond and react.
Absolutely, that's well known and is actually as something that is demonstrated by research. So they have the research that's done has demonstrated that in certain situations, when parents respond with this strong reaction to an event, children learn and model to respond strongly to that same event in their life by modeling alone, because that ability to think more rationally, more intellectually, more logically comes later on in life. So children have absolutely no choice. Very young children have no choice but just follow what they learn and what they see, right? Sometimes repeating what is done, even though the consequences may be negative, simply because that's all they know. Thank you for that comment. So we spend a little bit of time talking about this because we want to think, at least going forward, and saying that there are some skills when it comes to resiliency that a child can develop and can learn. So let's go forward, Kim, please. So I started already talking about child development. We're not going to spend a great deal of time here talking about development in general, but it's noteworthy. We need to talk about the fact that development is complicated. It's not uniform. It goes back and forth. And there's physical development. There's intellectual cognitive development. There is social development. There's emotional development, right? There are other aspects in terms of development. They all come together over time, interacting and evolve over time, building on previous experiences. So one of the things that we're going to be working on is to look at socio-emotional development in general. Can we go to the next slide, please? Oh, is there one? Yes. So this is a great poster. I want to pause and have everybody read it. And because it says a lot, it's a very rich poster in terms of what message it communicates to all of us. So how do we prepare children for whatever that will come, right? That's what resilience is about. Rather than thinking that if we make everything fine and good and easy for our kids, then hopefully life will be okay. And things will fall in place exactly the way they want it. And all of us know better than to think that life happens like that, right? The unpredictable happens all the time. So if we only prepared the path, as in trying to smooth everything out, it would be difficult later on to deal with challenges. Let's go forward, please.
Dr. Banilivy,
Yeah.
before you start again, I just want to share another comment in the chat from
Okay.
Helen. Sometimes we need to take a beat and see how our children react before we overreact.
Absolutely. That is a wonderful statement, and thank you for whomever has shared that. It's a wonderful comment. Absolutely. So, so before I even start in terms of talking about some protective factors and risk factors, again, I'm going through these slides relatively quickly because I want to get everybody to the breakout rooms after we cover the basics. So we'll have a chance to talk about this topic in detail among each other. So let's go back to the concept of development, but I want to focus on socio-emotional development. All of us have heard a great deal about socio-emotional development because one of the things that has been said over and over again during the pandemic had to do with what has happened to our kids. What has happened to our kids? What have they gone through? Many parents have feared that the kids are going backwards, that their development is interrupted because they have had a lot less or minimal interaction with their peers. I wonder if you agree with that. Do you feel like your kids lost the year of their life? Do you feel that you lost the year of your life because you had to stay home practically for a number of months? I want you to pause and think about that. Was that an opportunity to enrich the lives of children differently? Was that an opportunity for our kids to know, okay, you know what? Things just always do not continue the way we expected. This was a very serious monkey wrench that was thrown in our lives globally, not just on Long Island, not just in New York, not just in the US, globally. The whole globe stopped. So again, going back to the question, in terms of socio-emotional development, I want everybody to think that what social skills in particular are your kids missing? What emotionally they were deprived of by not being around teachers and other peers, by not being bullied, by not missing home, by having more tests, by having challenge of being on Zoom, by having to do homework in a different way, but not having the support of their peers, not having a teacher that says, great job. What did our kids miss? And a related question is that I want you to think, did our kids become less resilient as a consequence of the COVID? Do you feel like they lost? You know what? If you're a gymnast, if you're a professional gymnast and you don't practice for 6 months, what happens? You get rusty, yes? That's gymnastics is one of those areas you got to practice day in, day out, right? If you want to be a professional and be in the Olympics. So let me ask you this. Do you feel like in terms of the ability of your children and yourselves to deal with challenges, because they were deprived of a lot of things they were used to? Remember, just note, I'm not saying because they were deprived of a lot of wonderful things. I said they were deprived of a lot of things they were used to. And my related question is that if their life changed for them and changed absolutely drastically, there's no question. Let me ask you this. Did this year teach your children and yourself something that you would have never learned if it wasn't for the pandemic? Did you learn something about life that you would have never learned in your lifetime because the pandemics, they may come perhaps once in a lifetime, right? Pandemics don't come every decade, generally speaking, as far as we know right now. But it came. It changed everything. It changed the way we're going forward in life. But I am asking you to juxtapose what your kids and us were accustomed to, and what we experienced that was unusual. We were forced to change and deal with change and go forward, correct? So isn't that a good measure of resiliency? Ability to cope with changes? So I want you to give some thought to that. So socio-emotional learning is a very important part of growing up. We learn about relationships. We learn about a lot of things. We learn about ourselves, other people. We learn about why we do things, why we feel the way we do. All of it starts from the very beginning. The toddlers that fall down, the toddlers that touch the hot iron, the toddlers that pull on curtains and the rod falls on them. It starts there because we are feeling animals from day one. In fact, somebody said we experienced the first trauma in vitro. Being born is the first trauma that we all experience. And by and large, all of us experience it okay. We come out and we scream and yell and cry, and then we go forward. So socio-emotional learning is something that never stops. Socio-emotional learning is an integral and a very important part of schooling, formal education, but is perhaps more importantly, it's part of raising children. We all went through it, and if we have kids, our kids go through it, because those have to depend on the way you and I interact with kids, what we say to them, how we react to them, how we explain things, and many other things. And very importantly, obviously, how we help them develop a perspective, a sense of meaning going and growing throughout life. That never stops, right? So it starts at birth and it never stops. So is resiliency, right? So a good question is coming up. So what is the alternative to resilience? Is giving up? an alternative to resilience? Is stopping trying, stopping learning, not going forward? So for some people who gets paralyzed with challenges in life, for some kids that every time that they have 2 exams or 2 tests in one day, they freeze. They have a panic that they don't know because they think I cannot handle this, right? I have 2 tests. I've never had 2 tests in one day. I remember when I had big exams, I was panicking. I couldn't sleep at night because I was questioning my ability to deal with this situation. Then is it the resiliency? Is it really me developing a mindset that says to me internally, by the way, that voice inside our head gets developed in preschool years and continues through elementary school and continues through adolescence and high school years. There's a voice that fundamentally develops that once I identify me as me, and there are a lot of emotions and thoughts get attached to me. So that voice later on in life and says, I have 2 tests. So this is what I have to do, right? So I immediately shift gears to thinking, okay, since I have 2 tests, this is how I have to manage my day, right? And the other person says, oh God, I don't know if I can do this. This is too much work for one day. Same event, 2 different people. So the point that was made was a great point in saying the option is not to give up, because then we give up on life, right? How do we develop, as you're looking at the picture and saying there are the protective factors? What it means really basically by positive doesn't mean that it's just positive, that means fun and games. It really doesn't mean that. It means positive in terms of experiences that are turned into learning. Even if the experience is not positive, I learn something from it, right? So it's almost like the kid comes in. Remember the example I gave you at the beginning. I said the kid comes in after falling off the bike and coming home and say, I fell off my bike and look what happened to my knee. It's hurting. All right, you take care of it and everything else, and says, you know what? Let's talk about this. How about if I go out with you? What happens if we go back on the bike again? Versus a style that says, all right, okay, so we don't have to go bike riding today, right? So stay home. How about we have some ice cream? We play a game in the house. What's the difference? What's the difference between those 2 approaches? Here, as an adult, we came in, we interceded, we kind of took charge to build some resiliency, right? To deal with a difficult situation. But the other kid had it somehow built in, that got back, even though it was hurting, the knee was hurting, it was even bleeding to some extent. The kid got on the bike because it was goal-oriented, right? It just wanted to ride the bike. There was something about conquering that challenge that was driving this child. Both can become more resilient, right? So one child just runs home and stays home. One kid falls off the bike, gets back on it without any adult work. And another kid has an adult or an older sibling that comes and says, let's go back. Or let me clean it up and it's going to be okay. You pat the kid on the head or back of the shoulders and say, let's go back. I'm going to stay with you. Let's get back on the bike. So in other words, the lesson with that 4-year-old preschooler is very clear. Yes, I'm going to give you support. It's going to be okay, but we're going to go back and we're going to achieve this goal together. I'm going to support you so you won't be alone. Regardless of what choice you pick, the choice of about just constantly protecting the kids and not allowing them to take on the challenges or being coaxed or pushed along, well, we need to look at that, right? All of us, we need to look at it. We look at how we were raised, and we have to look at how we're raising our kids. And if we think our kids have a tendency to come home or go back to their room every time something challenging happens, we need to ask ourselves, all right, why is he having a hard time problem solving or coping with this particular situation? Could we go forward, please, Kim?
Dr. Banilivy, just quickly, because I know there's a time schedule that's going on, but we're having a lot, just mindful of time. We have a lot of comments in the chat box, so I'm going to try to read them real quickly.
Okay.
The last year has been a different type of learning. That came from Carrie. The next one came from Lori. It was an opportunity for our kids and parents to slow down, disconnect from busy schedules, and learn to communicate face-to-face with their family. This came from Karen. Many children don't have families that are able to provide enrichment opportunities. Some kids will be stronger and will have some new and wonderful skills. Others will experience great loss and regression. Another one came from Robin. I feel that children have lost skills socially, and they're very uncertain about the future at this time. I feel they don't know what to expect day to day. Another one came from Barbara. What is the alternative to resilience? And she answered it by saying not an option. This one came from Kathleen. I feel that it has taught no matter how much you plan, what your expectations are, life can change in an instant without warning. Therefore, we need to assist our children and ourselves to do the best we can, stay positive and focus, and know that this too shall pass. And the last one came from Barbara. We develop the skills by necessity. Both children are resilient. One chooses to get their needs met by going home, taking a minute, and comes back out. Those are the comments so far.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's go forward, Kim. So in summary, in terms of some of the examples to what we were saying is that how one copes with stress, any kind of a stress. COVID was an extreme stress in some ways, right? It affected some families very tragically. You're absolutely right. And one of the comments that was an important comment I want to just highlight, all the comments that were great contributions, that comment in particular about uncertainty of future. I want to ask all of you, what is certain about life? I want you to think. What the pandemic did, wake everybody up and said, yep, we can't guarantee anything. Yes, somebody said taxes and death. That's right. Yeah, right. But you know what? How about if we look at this as that is teaching all of us that life can be uncertain, and we can teach our kids that we can still be happy, we can still achieve, we can still be productive, even though we worry about the future. Isn't that a good lesson? Isn't that a good lesson? And even talking to the kids about saying that maybe all of us, and maybe I should ask you that question, maybe all of us actually as a result of the pandemic, all of us have become stronger. Would you agree with that? Would you agree that actually all of us have become stronger, including our kids? Kids now have learned, wow, their life can be changed so drastically. Even though it drastically changed, they're still here. They still could be happy. They still could have some friends, and they're still going back to school. That is a reality. In spite of the pandemic, in spite of the fact that we worry about the future, well, didn't we worry about the future before? Now are we worried about more pandemics coming or more interruptions? It may happen. But my question for you in terms of building resiliency in kids is that in ourselves is that we look back and say, we coped. We coped in some way. We were still able to have fun, even though we were staying at home. We learned about Zoom. Did you know about Zoom before? I'm Zooming all day long. Now I have a skill I didn't have before. Did your family and your children learn any skills new because they were cooped up in the house? Let's go forward.
Dr.
Yes?
Banilivy, we have some great comments in the chat again. Kathleen shared that life is unpredictable. Renee shared that teach our kids that the uncertainty can be wonderful. Lori shared that each of us is on our own hero's journey and learn many things on that journey. Diana shared that many have realized that life is short, and so they are appreciating life more.
Fantastic. So with regard to uncertainty, this is a lesson plan, right? This is a lesson plan for school and for us as a family. And it is a lesson plan for you and I as adults, that we can live through uncertainty. In fact, uncertainty is not always bad. It can become only bad if we expect life to be always predictable. We need to, because without change, change is inevitable, right? Growth and development is all about change. Things changing, except that if we teach our kids that only good change is the one that is a pleasant one, then we'll miss half of life, because people go through all sorts of changes. Have any of us tried something in life that we found out we are not good at? Did we try something? I tried playing tennis one time. I couldn't hit the ball. Listen, I'm jealous of all these professional tennis players. I tried it. I failed. But that memory is gone. I said to myself, well, I'm not going to be good at tennis, but I'm good at some other things, I hope, right? That is a message to teach kids, right? It's not about the failing, because we fail many times in life in different ways. It's not to avoid failure. It's about how to deal with failure and disappointments and uncertainty. So how do we teach that to the kids? How do we convey that message of, oh, we went to the store, they were out of toilet paper 9 months ago. What a catastrophe, right? I had to wake up at 5 in the morning to go to the store to find some. But you know what? It wasn't the end of the world. Now we have toilet paper all over the place. Let's go forward, please. Your child's ability to adapt and thrive in the face of challenge also is shaped by experience and relationships, right? It's relationships, most importantly with the significant others, teachers, you and I and everybody else that cares about them, helps them grow safely in this world, right? Picture a seesaw of stressful experiences such as the loss of a parent or having a chronic illness may pile up on one side, weighing it down. Let's go forward. That's just a pictorial presentation. Let's go forward, Kim. On the other side, however, are positive relationships and supportive resources. These help make stress tolerable for a child, tipping the seesaw the other way. Stress does not disappear, but the child has the tools to achieve a positive balance. So what I'm going to ask you at this point, imagine or create actually a physical box called Resiliency Box, okay? For yourself and your family or your kids. So think about the kind of tools you want to put this in box that you feel like it's important for life going forward, regardless of what kind of pandemic we deal with. Let's go forward, Kim, please. The role of community and family, we've talked about it to some extent. Let's go forward. So what are some of these factors? Let's go forward. The single most common factor for children who develop resilience is at least one stable and committed relationship. It was said in one of the chats, and it was very accurate. Yes, there are some kids who don't have that. Hopefully they have, in education, they have a teacher or a mentor or a grandparent someplace, or a coach or what have you that can serve this role. Go forward, please. Next. Children who do well in face of serious hardship typically have a biological resilience to adversity and strong relationships. Next. The factors, the things that counterbalance are what? Next, please. So I just want you to go forward and just read these. We're talking about some of the things, yeah, we've talked about it already. So next, please, next slide. Next. Next, please. There's a video here, but in the interest of time, the video is in your resources. It's about adverse childhood experiences. This is a wonderful video. It's about 16 minutes long. That is a wonderful video. I strongly urge you to watch it, about the kinds of things that can compromise, the kinds of things you do as a way of trying to help your child or children become more resilient. So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip this. Go forward, please, Kim. Go forward. Okay. So this is just kind of explains that actually adverse childhood experiences impact the health of children later on, physically, aside from emotionally. Let's go forward, please. Next. Next. These are many different things, right? Next, please. So one of the things you're going to explore in the breakout rooms is what kind of experiences do you consider to be traumatic? I hope all of you respond to that. Next, please. The 6 core pieces, basics, right? Sleep, exercise, nutrition, healthy relationships, and being mindful in a sense of being mindful about knowing why things happen, to provide an explanation for the kids at all levels as to the reasons for certain things at an age-appropriate level. Next, please. Okay, next. Next. Next, please. Next.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask if you could explain that slide, the last slide, a little bit more.
Let's go. What are some of the components?
No, how learn to teach resilience despite the many intricacies involved in just how do you teach a child resiliency?
Well, the teaching of the resiliency has to do with the way we interact and problem solve with kids. And how do we explain challenging situations? How do we navigate with them the challenging situations? Knowing that all of us have different genetics, right? There may be some neurobiological limitations or other developmental limitations. In spite of that, we still have the choice, an option that very consciously we can address things in different ways. As in the example with regard to certain things that happen to kids or certain things that happen to all of us in terms of how, not just how we explain it, but how do we explain it in the sense of them understanding that this is a learning experience, that every challenge that they have in life is a learning experience. So we can stop and ask them, let's see what we learned from here, right? We went to the store. We wanted to buy a toy or a game. They were closed. It was very frustrating. We were very upset. Is there a learning that can happen there with regard to frustration tolerance? Yes. So almost every event, experiences, whether it's school related or family related or personal, interpersonal with siblings or friends, it's a possibility, is that the potential for building resilience exists in that particular interaction, but especially when there is stress involved, when challenges are involved, which we have dealt with as we spoke about it with regard to COVID. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you. I think that was very helpful. And Lori commented in the chat and said, teaching resilience can be done with role play of different situations to exercise the mental muscle memory.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is one of the things we mentioned earlier about modeling, right? Mm-hmm. Children from a very beginning, age 1, right? Or even earlier, they're watching us. In fact, I say in preschool years, they learn a lot more by watching us than just the play and what we teach them didactically. They're constantly taking information in. We provide explanation to help clarify what that information means when they take it in, but modeling is an important piece of it. And then we can absolutely, when the term role-playing is an excellent one, in a sense of we can simulate situation to demonstrate a concept. So we can simulate a situation that is somewhat stressful, but not overly so, as a way of saying, oh, it felt bad, but you know what? It didn't last too long. Does that help with resiliency when we teach that? Absolutely. So we can drastically respond to something that is unpleasant, because unpleasant things, at least many of them, do pass, right? Don't we want kids to learn to manage emotions? Doesn't that make sense? And be able to modulate them, right? And regulate them over time. Because little kids are not able to do that, right? We get it in a raw form. Then by the way we interact with the way we talk with them, we teach them, well, this shall also pass, right? All right, let's go forward, please. All right, and next. All right, this is just a diagrammatic, visual one for you to keep in mind. Okay, how do we build resilience? By having some sort of a meaning in life, right? By having positive emotions and being able to, also being emotionally intelligent, right? To know why I feel the way I do, right? You fall down, yes, your knee hurts, okay? But it does pass, but I know why I feel bad. I have a pain. By social support, being there for them, right? By teaching them coping skills, as we're talking about it, and certainly being physically healthy. Let's go forward, please. So that piece about the meaning starts very early in life. It's not an abstract concept for adolescents and college students. Meaning about why do we do this? Providing an accurate explanation to the student as to why we're wearing a mask, right? Your 3-year-old was wearing, or a 2-year-old was wearing a mask. Why are we wearing a mask? It provides an explanation that turns into a meaning for that particular kind of behavior. Let's go forward, please. Hello, Kim, are you there? And go forward, please. So we're going to go through these quickly. Build a strong emotional connection. Promote health. Actually build in risk-taking. Don't avoid risk-taking within reason. Obviously in a healthy and not a dangerous way, but have them take risks in life. Resist the urge to fix it for them. That's very important. Next page. Teach problem-solving skills. Some kids are more inherently capable, but when they get stuck, you rather than just doing it for them, tell them about it. Label emotions, as we said. If you haven't read already, read about emotional intelligence, emotional quotient. It's so important for kids. Demonstrate the coping skills like it was said in terms of modeling. Talking about failures and mistakes. Talk about ourselves when we make a mistake, when we get disappointed, when our feelings are hurt, and how we deal with it is modeling for our kids. Next, please. Understanding consequence of decisions, promoting the bright side of it and saying this, you know what, this would shall also pass. And we said that about modeling resiliency. And let them experience life. You know, in some cases, we have lost that opportunity to play in the mud and get dirty and build things and eat, you know, have mud and sand in our mouths and come in. That we'll learn a great deal about life that way. Some of that, sadly enough, has been eliminated. Next, please. So how do we teach with the resiliency? Failure is a part of life, but everyone has strengths, right? And talking about and asking a question as to what can we learn from this is a way to build resilience. Next, please. Next. And this is only about 4 minutes. Maybe we can play it and then this is a very short one.
Hello and welcome to this month's Maggie Moment. Today I'm going to talk about things that you can do if you want to build more resilience in your children. So what do I mean by resilience? I mean building your child's capacity to cope with life when it doesn't turn up how they want it, but also to be able to manage their own lives, even on a good day, because we know resilience is more than just bouncing back. Okay, so let's start with the very first one. The first one I want you to know about is that we need to embrace failure. Seriously, we need to give our children so many opportunities to fail and to be around us when we fail, so that they learn that it's not a sign that we're a lousy person, a weak person, a bad person, or a stupid person. We're a person who hasn't achieved the success we were hoping for. So that means if you want to build that in your children, please keep them away from online games for as long as possible, because they need to experience other humans when they lose. I'm a huge fan of, obviously, pass the parcel should only have one winner, and I know I bang on about that a lot, but children need to identify it feels yucky when I wasn't the winner, and we need to let them know that's completely normal. And then, what am I going to do to feel better? Can I look forward to a next game? Can I look forward to something? Can I take a few breaths? If I need a hug? And remember, play board games. Play the games with your children in real time to build that capacity around failing. The second one is we want them to be able to develop self-efficacy. So self-efficacy means, what can I do for myself? And that's a really big one, because in your busy world out there as parents, so often it's easier for you to dress your children. It's easier for you to do things for them because you haven't got enough time. So really, we have to factor in that children who can dress themselves, children who can clean their own teeth, oh, that's a good one. Where did I get that from? Children who can pack their own lunchbox. So gradually, as your children get older, you need to be putting more life skills and capacities into their kit bag, so when they leave home, they're not useless because you've done it all for them. And that means they need to carry their own bag into school when they're ready. Not obviously at 4, but as they get older, yep, it's your bag, your responsibility. The next one is developing grit and persistence. And this is something that, once again, is a little bit linked to failure. But one of the things we want you to develop in your children is that sometimes things don't work the first time, and I'm going to have to practice. This is why I'm such a fan of the long monkey bar, not the short monkey bar, because we nail that really quick. You have to really work hard to be able to master that. Nobody can do it easy. So being able to climb the tree to where they want to might take a few weeks. Being able to give them opportunities to go, wow, you're up to there, well done. Remember, try not to reward them. Try not to reward them, just cheer them on. And hopefully you're developing in them the capacity to do things that are a bit hard, rather than bailing and not doing anything with it. Then the next thing underneath that, I would like you to come round to relationships. Seriously, the only way you're going to overcome big things in life is with other people. We're not resilient on our own. We actually need others. So if you collectively have a family that's very much about, what do I do around building? I'm here for you. If you're struggling, I'm always going to be here. Yep, I'm not going to pick you up, and I'm not going to make it easy for you sometimes, because I want you to be able to push through yourself, but we're behind you. So that's a big one for when things happen, like sudden deaths and accidents and things that really cause big trauma for us and our children. We come together. And when our communities are really collective and caring, then that's the best way for a community to recover from something awful afterwards. So I hope that's given you some great tips for today. And once again, you have to be a parent sometimes, and sometimes you're going to feel a bit yuck, but you're building your children's resilience, capacity and independence so they can leave home one day.
Thank you very much, Kim. So I wanted to talk about in a couple of minutes before we break for the breakout rooms, I want to talk about a concept called alternate solution thinking. Kim, if you can bring us to that slide. It's a model for parenting called alternate solution thinking. Very simply means that if a child asks you a question, or is a situation that's somewhat challenging, and say, okay, all right, this is one thing I guess we can do. Tell me, what else can we do in this situation? That's called alternate solution thinking. So from even in the preschool years, you can in a age appropriate language, you can use alternate solution thinking. It's like saying, oh, you want a hot dog. We don't have hot dogs. I wonder what else we can eat, right? That's starting early in life with a concept, with a model called alternate solution thinking as a parenting style. So we can go forward and saying, okay, I can give you the answer, but or I can help you find the answer, right? That's the difference. Or I can even be here, and so you can find your own answer, right? So there are different levels of it. But clearly what we're talking about is that trying to always, as that picture wonderfully said, if we can always trying to smooth over challenges for our kids, and we work so hard at it to making life easier, it's in some situations, in some ways, goes counter to building resilience. So I just wanted to say that in the interest of time, we're going to have plenty of time to talk later on. I would like to ask whether there are any specific comments or questions we should entertain before we go to breakout rooms. So let me see if there are some. Any?
No, I think we kind of covered them all because teacher resilience can be done with role play of different situations to exercise the mental muscle memory. That was the last one. And then modeling followed by mentoring. And then Milton Hershey discovered chocolate after years of failing to try to create caramel candy. And the next
That's wonderful. Thank you.
And the next comment is that was great and very good.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So what we're going to do, I want to pause at this point because I want to give enough time for the breakout rooms. So it's going to take a couple of minutes. So all of you will be randomly assigned to one of the 5 breakout rooms. And the facilitators have some questions for you as a way of starting a conversation. And then we're going to come back together. Right now it's about 5 to 2. So we have enough time. So I would say we can still take the 45 minutes. If we're all done, we can possibly maybe come back sooner, but we can still take the 45 minutes. So Kim, are we ready to go?
Yes, I am ready to go. You'll just be asked to join a particular breakout room. And for those of you who need to be facilitating breakouts, we discussed that you might need to move into another breakout room because we do want one parent advisor in every breakout room. Dr. Banilivy, if you end up in a breakout room, I will pull you back into the main session so you and I can monitor all of the breakout rooms. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Kim, you're there?
Yep, I'm here. I'm getting ready to get you and I out of this one and.
Okay. are you and I be able to go to the different rooms?
Yeah, we will.
And you listen in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, Angela, John, Julie, were you asked to join a breakout room? Anne Marie, were you asked to join you haven't joined a breakout room? You're going to be invited to join a breakout room. Okay. All of you here, did you not receive your message to join a breakout room?
Are the names that I see are the people who are not in a room?
Yeah, it just says they have not joined.
Maybe they took a break or left.
I know, because I seriously, I've been asking them to respond. They all have invitations. They haven't accepted the invitation for some reason. Let's see.
When it says not joined, that simply means they didn't come to the workshop or they didn't join in a room.
I didn't join a room for some reason.
Okay. Kim, well, those was good. We went, your help was incredible.
Well, I try. I just don't, I'm trying to figure out why I'm not getting responses from.
Well, it's possible that people took a break.
Yeah,
They went to get lunch or something like that, or they didn't want to be part of a discussion group. Tell me if I have a minute to get some water.
yes, you do.
Okay, I'll come back in a minute.
Anybody who's in here now, are you here? Could you unmute yourself or type in the chat if you're here and you were unable to join a room, please?
How did it go?
I just moved them out. I moved them into the waiting room because for some reason, I asked them to please respond to me if they're here and they can't get into a waiting room. I sent them several invites. I still didn't get a response. So I put them in the waiting room and now I'm going to message the waiting room.
You know what it is? This is common.
Yeah.
When I do lengthy trainings, some people just come in for a little bit of time. They don't plan to stay for the whole time.
Yeah.
That's not unusual. So I recognize some of the names.
You'll be readmitted when we return.
Okay. So the numbers are much smaller than 106.
I know.
It's significantly smaller.
So I just told them to feel free to message me if they're ready to join.
Okay, all right. Very good. So should I say inviting me to room 4? Should I say join or?
No, actually, you can ignore it. Click ignore. I couldn't separate you out because you were the co-host and not the host.
That's okay. That's okay. That was really nice. A lot of people were sharing thoughts and ideas.
They were, definitely.
That was really nice. I was hoping that's what would happen, that people will participate.
All right, so what time is it now?
Right now,
they started at 2, so I'll give them a broadcast at 2:30.
2:30, we still have about till 3:30. So they can, we started about 5 of, and then they really could have that 45 minutes if they want to. Would they, the other facilitators can tell you if they're finished?
Yeah, they could, I'm gonna broadcast the message to them.
Yeah, that would be great. And say if they feel like they're finished, we can come back earlier and we have more discussion.
Let's say.
I guess some of the rooms end up being larger than others, right?
Well, I had to shift some people back in.
Oh, you did. Oh, okay. So you can do all that fancy work.
Yeah, this is like, wow, okay. So, let me see. Breakout room broadcast message to all. Haven't heard anything from those 5 attendees.
You know what? Just you did enough in terms of trying to see, to help them. I guess if they really want to participate, they will message you back.
Exactly.
Okay,
Or they'll just have to wait.
exactly. Tell me whenever you're ready to go to the rooms.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Oh, that's Kathleen Ledecker. Okay. So you should be able to just, if you open up your breakouts, you should be able to hover above each room and then click join.
Okay, so it says close all rooms. No, right?
Yeah, go up to room 1, and if you hover above the heading for room 1,
Right.
to the right, you'll see join. So you can jump in and then click leave room, and you'll be right back here.
Okay, so I can just click on join.
Yeah, and then there'll be a leave room option on your screen when you're in the room. So if
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. I want to ask you, why did I ask all of you to do these exercises? I want to ask all of you to think about why I asked you to answer all these questions and do these exercises. Just think about it.
I think it's to get everybody's perspective, because we might all have different perspectives on what resilience is or how
Right.
we did.
Yes. Yes, that certainly makes sense to share.
It was a way to point out how we've all been resilient and build our own resilience.
Robin, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I think it helped to point out how we've all been resilient and promoted more resilient for our children and our families.
All right, well, that's right on the right track, right? So we didn't want to just waste your time.
I think it also.
Go ahead, Lori. Lori, go ahead, Lori.
I think it also helped us identify strengths that we may not necessarily have been able to identify prior to all of this.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, see our growth through all of this, because, you know, even if today isn't a great, well, it is because we've opened a lot of things, but if we were only halfway through, we still would have only seen ourselves as halfway through. Something like this at that point in time would have helped us remember what we did have and what was working.
Yeah, that's right.
This took us back 15 months to where we could really see how we've changed.
Right.
To see how far we've come from the beginning to now. That was like one of the questions that we had on, that it was, if you were to ask these questions 8 months ago, right, you'd probably get completely different answers than we have today. So it shows that we have all been very resilient in very creative ways.
Now, hint, that this is all about perspective, isn't it? Right? And the same for your kids. Now they have a perspective that they didn't have before. So how they look at this perspective, it's very much up to them and you. How do you turn this perspective in a way that strengthens them rather than be this embellishment in their development? Because of so many people, I'm sure you heard this, said, I lost a year of my life. That's certainly one way to look at it, because I lost the opportunity for 1 year of my life to do the things I used to doing. That's a more accurate way of putting it, right? For a year, I couldn't do things the way I was accustomed to, but I learned to do a lot of things a different way. Isn't that a good message for the kids?
Yes.
We had a chance to spend more time together. We had a chance to think together, to problem solve together, cope. You had a chance to spend more time with your siblings. When else? When you get older, you're going to have that much time spent with your siblings, doing things, learning together in the same room, having 3 Zooms going sometimes. Wow. It's all about perspective, isn't it? Mental status, emotional wellness, to a great extent has to do with our perspective. Whether we focus on what we lost, what is negative, versus what we learned from it, right? So is everybody back?
Everybody's back, rooms are closed.
Oh, fantastic. All right. We are about 10 to 3, and we're going to definitely wrap up because people have other schedules and stuff by 3:30 or so.
Dr. Ben Olivier, I just want to say very quickly for everybody here, the survey has been dropped for this training in chat. Please click on it. It'll open up in a new window. You can fill it out while you're here. If you're not going to fill it out now, we please ask that you please copy that link and fill it out immediately after this webinar. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kim. All right. So what we're going to do, I would like to start with, since everybody's back, for the lead people, either the facilitators or whomever is designated, if you can summarize in a couple of minutes in terms of what was the gist of what was discussed, what did everybody realize? And in particular, I want to ask each group that is reporting to report on that scale of 1 to 10. What was the average? Go ahead.
So I guess I'm going to start. It's Barbara Callahan, and I was in room 4. And on the scale, I think we all felt like we did pretty effectively. I would say we were, all 5 and under. I took that from the comments more so than our statements about it. But we talked about, how much more resilient we are than we had thought we were, and that it wasn't just the COVID epidemic, but it was everything that was going on almost simultaneously. Talk about the epidemic of OxyContin and heroin, and the epidemic of suicide and human trafficking, and so many things. And then the elections, which sort of divided our families, and so there was so much going on that, as we look back, we actually felt like we did pretty good in all of this. We definitely talked about your wording, which was permanent scars, and said, yeah, there is a permanent scar. It wouldn't have been the wording I would have used at the beginning of this training, but now I would say, yes, it is a permanent scar, not one that disables us, but one that reminds us, and opposed to disables us. So that's kind of our answers. I hope I summed it up. If anybody had something else they wanted to say, Helen or Lee, if you have additional comments, please feel free.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Next.
This is Kathleen. I can report out, and I apologize. My screen froze. So you want us to, in reference to the question number 4?
The scale of 1 to 10, but also just summarize the gist of what was discussed and what did you come up with?
Okay, sure. So our the one with the scale from 1 to 10, a lot of the responses was it depended on the day. It depended on where we were at then and now. Right. And like many people have said, that we look back on where we were and how resilient we have been. I made reference to the fact that we were told as parent advisors we were going to be working remotely. That my whole thing was maybe 1 to 2 weeks, and then we'd be back. And here we are over a year. And I think overall, though, people were very positive. That they really tried to look at the positive parts of everything, being together, creating time together. The virtual learning was difficult for many people. That was brought up. And certainly if someone had a loss through the pandemic, whether it was a loss of COVID or another loss, we had a person share that she had lost someone by suicide, and she had indicated that, doctor, you were very supportive. You helped her agency through that time. I also, we had talked about the support groups had increased in membership, the virtual support groups, because people really needed to connect. And as people learned the technology, they were more comfortable connecting via, Zoom and Skype and things like that. Learn to love each other more, to respect each other's space. So I think overall the group that I had was very resilient and will continue to be.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any of the members of this particular group, you want to say anything more? Thank you very much. Next group.
I can go next, Sue Lewis. The group that I had, I think, was also very resilient. We started out with, was it traumatic? And we had more yeses than nos. It was traumatic emotionally, lack of social interaction, physical touch. But then we had no nos, actually. We had both. We had 3 people say both. They thought that working with youth, it went either way. They either had tremendous anxiety when they were going to school and did so much better with the online and the virtual learning and less stimulus than they did with other kids who were parts of sports groups or were very social and didn't do as well. So they thought it was more traumatic. But when you look at the rating, the adjustment to the crisis, our scale was the greater proportion of the people were on number 2 or number 3. We only had one person that was halfway through at number 5.
Right.
So people still felt that they were very effective going through this.
Nice.
They learned that they were busy with things before the pandemic that maybe were not as important as they thought they were. And they've basically, I think, rearranged their what's more important to them after the pandemic. So it's maybe a restructure in a way. The coping skills were very good: deep breathing, talking it out, role modeling, having to remove yourself to another room so that your kids and grandkids wouldn't really see how you were feeling, and helping them to calm down. And self-care. Somebody was able to work from home and still take care of her family and have time for self-care. So, woohoo to her, because I didn't get there. I know a lot of us didn't get there.
Thank you very much. Oh, you had more?
Yeah, no, they're
Yes.
just, let's see, they thought that they were more resilient because mentally they know they survived a pandemic.
Yes.
And it helped them to stay positive.
Okay, very good. Very good. Thank you very much, Susan. Anybody from your group, anybody wants to add on? Okay, thank you very much. Next.
I'll go. I'm on room 2, and we had a great group, and we all agreed that it did depend on the day, whether it was a Monday or a Friday. And we had losses. We have family losses. So depending on the initial shock, the fact that we couldn't go to the hospital to take our family members there, that alone we felt totally helpless. But overall, my group, they handled it. They were all effective in how they handled what they did. As things came their way. Of course, there were different circumstances for each of us, but at the end, I would say with room 2, we were all very effective with adjusting to the crisis.
Thank you very much. Anybody from that Diana's group want to add on? All right, I think the last group, right?
That's my group, group 5.
Oh, it's you. Yes, Cheryl. It's you.
Okay.
Yes.
Group 5, on a scale from 1 to 10, 3 being the higher number, I would say it's at 3, because during the pandemic, folks started out with a 10 and ended up with a 3.
Right.
With the first question, the lack of ability, there was the lack of ability for the child to transition. That's one person said. And another one that was working spoke about the stress of losing people to COVID and having to do other jobs that they were not prepared to do. Right. Even one person lost the home, teenage son ended up running away, ended up in the hospital, and that was very stressful, which she ended up having to actually seek services. With the second question, it was kind of lack of community activities. That was one of the problems. They felt very isolated, unable to reach out to family members, going from being a parent to all of a sudden teaching. We had that upstate question about TV and media and politicians, where the media determine what you heard and so on, what you believe, and this dismantlement with politics, the politicians getting everybody riled up and dividing people. So we had a division of different classes of people and different races of people. Number 3, it was some scars. Some said yes, scars, and some had no scars. But overall, the smaller amount had scars, and it kind of took them really back to 9/11.
Right.
That's the memory it brought back. The family discovered that the family changed a lot. You know, family dynamics changed a lot. Some of the families were closer on a smaller number. It was where it was quite isolating and no longer in contact with family. It just changed the behavior of people. Number 4, adjusted pretty well. Had to deal with a lot of family issues, and the bottom line is the resiliency that showed was taking one day at a time and being easy to adjust as it came along. It was a sink or swim situation. And 5, it was staying, the family dynamic was really good, staying really connected, checking in, stuff like that. Relying on and learning to rely more on yourself instead of reaching out for someone else to help you. One of the coping mechanisms was finding friends on video games, technology, stuff like that. So the outreach was bigger with communicating with people and developing social activities. For instance, like turning, at one point, one family decided to turn all the technology off and just did dance parties. We spoke a lot about everybody ate a lot of food. That was coping. Walk, physical activities, going to the park, and using the radio more instead of TV. And we went through to one experience was being able to sell a property during COVID, you know, and being able to move to different areas. So that was some kind of independence and some kind of confidence that know that we have this pandemic, as they were able to still function what is quoted as somewhat normal. And number 8 would hope to, number 8 was very hard because it was hope to do better, to improve in communication and skills. Even though, you know, at times everyone felt that we're very resilient, because my group was a very resilient group, rating at a 3. So being that resilience and still questioning yourself, am I doing enough? I can still build on more. So that's where it left off, I think. Does anyone else want to add something else to it? Eileen, Julie, Rebecca?
All right.
Garrett?
All right.
Robin?
Okay.
Please add.
I think you summed it up good.
Me too.
Okay.
Hit all the points.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you very much, group.
You're welcome.
So you're going to be me now. Tell me, based on what has transpired in such a short time, what did you learn about resilience?
I learned that we're doing it without even recognizing it.
Beautiful. There you go. Robin, you get 2 brownie points.
Yay!
You get 2 brownie points because I wanted to bring you to this point by this exercise of knowing that that is true of your kids also.
I would like to add that with resilience, everybody approaches it differently, but we all get through it.
So what a nice message for a family, right?
Yeah.
We're different people. We may approach stressors and we may approach challenges or even drastic things like this, and even significant, sadly, tragic losses, but we all get through it. Isn't this what resilience is all about? Not that the goal of life is not to have challenges. Not the goal of life is because we're never going to fail. Is that so we can, again, as a matter of perspective, we can go forward with ourselves and with our kids, that regardless of what life throws us, perhaps the COVID demonstrated to every single family that we can deal with it. What a lesson to go forward. It's better than 10 years of psychoanalysis. I'm telling you, you just did something that Sigmund Freud didn't do for decades.
Okay, that's $150. Thank you.
At least tell me you already knew about resilience. I didn't teach you anything.
I think one of the biggest things that a quote that I love is that you never know how strong you can be until it's the only choice you have.
Yes. Beautiful. Please, Kathleen, please put it in the chat. It's a nice quote, right? Isn't that something you can teach to your kids? So resilience is a process, is a perspective. It's a way of talking, is a way of looking at the world. It's a way of looking at experiences. Is most importantly, we were just talking about it in one of the groups, most importantly, resilience is built when bad things happen in life. And by bad, I don't mean COVID necessarily at that scale. I mean when negative things happen, when challenges happen. You never know how high you can go unless you try it, right? Isn't that the famous saying? You are all your kids and yourselves climbed the mountain in the last 14, 15 months. So this is something to take out, take forward, take it to your communities, and certainly have a discussion with your family or with your kids with a simple question. What did we learn? What did we learn during COVID? Because we can certainly focus on the fact that we lost months of formal education, right? We lost a lot of time of socio-emotional learning and formal education of math, reading, science, you name it. Instead, we learned very extremely valuable lessons in life that your kids and yourself are going to take forward for the rest of your life. So the task today, it was not so much that I knew anything more than you, was for you to stop and think that you're absolutely all resilient. Your kids all are resilient. They can even become more resilient because the more you realize that in spite of the hard times, you still grew. So your decision is, how do I capture this to benefit me and my family? And that's where your action plan comes in. Kim, would you have that action plan up? Please.
Give me a second.
You can have a minute. So would you say all of you, would you say safely that in a sense, all of you knew about the ingredients of resilience? Would you agree?
Well, you affirmed it. we knew it subconsciously because we were thrown in the fire and we didn't have it sink or swim with the situation we have. And then you confirmed through this webinar, this wonderful webinar, that wow, it was like the Wizard of Oz with the red ruby slippers. We had it all along.
So the only thing we did today was to show you what you already knew already, right? And sometimes that's what it takes to do with our kids and with the kids in school. Yes, didactic teaching is important. All of that is important. So what I'm asking you to do, make this actionable. So that's what the action plan is. What are you going to take forward in an actionable? What are you going to do for the rest of this week with yourself and your family? Write it down as, even if it's 1 point. It doesn't have to be 3 things. But if you write 3, you prioritize, but it's something that you're going to do, not what you're going to think about. Because thinking about it means I may not do it. So what is it that you're going to commit to doing it, whether it's with yourself and with your family? Now, Kim, would you take this away so I can actually see folks more? Okay, perfect. Does that make sense? You're going to go back to your kids and you're going to say, you know what? I spent 3 hours today talking about something I knew already. So I want to share it with you. I want to share with you what I learned today in the 3 hours of my life that I spent talking about resilience. And we had this doctor talking about something I knew already. He didn't teach me anything new. I knew everything. Because a lot of the resilience, a lot of strengths, a lot of those things that you worry about your kids are already there. It's a matter of activating it. It's a matter of being mindful. It's a matter of being emotionally intelligent. It's a matter of giving kids alternate ways of thinking. Teach them how to think in terms of alternate solution thinking. Don't give them the solution. Have them come to it themselves because they can. And if they need help, you give them help. At the end of the day, even if they don't come up with the right answer, you gave them the experience of trying something that was challenging, right? By just asking them through that exercise. We owe it to our kids to do that with them on a daily basis. We need to our teachers to do the same thing. We need everybody to do the same thing because that's how we're going to have a resilient society. And how we're going to have people that go through hard time, and many of us go through hard time. This is not about avoiding the storm, right? It's not avoiding the rain and the raindrops. It's being able to what? Dance in the rain. Remember that song, Dancing in the Rain. It's about learning to dance in the rain and enjoying it. Rather than, oh, everybody says, oh, God, it's going to be cloudy tomorrow. Oh, rain. Oh, God. Do you realize kids learning, it's the rain that feeds us? Do we think about the rain that feeds us? Do we ever think like that? Rather than, oh, God, a gloomy day, the clouds make me depressed. It is a matter of perspective, isn't it? The kids grow up in our households hearing it all the time. So either we say, oh God, it's raining, we can't go out, or you can say, put your galoshes on we're going to go out and splash in the rain, because then we get dirty. We take it off and take a shower. Isn't that wonderful? It's a very different approach to life. Sadly enough, many people don't learn that approach. They're constantly thinking about the negative and how the negative experiences weigh them down. Not that we don't need help. We all may need help at some point. It's remembering the fact that when I fell off the bicycle, I got back on. That is the most important lesson in life. Not the fact that I fell down and scratched my knees. We need to take the focus off of the negative and look at the challenges and turn it into something that we can grow with. Isn't that what life is all about? You decide. Because it's all about choices, right? It's a choice whether I go out in the rain or worry about my hair. It's all about choices. And the choice of not facing challenges in life is not a choice. Because that's what hinders everyone, including our kids, when they underachieve. Because they focus on, I may not be good enough. I'm not good at this, right? COVID taught us so much, made all of us have the potential for getting stronger and being more resilient. Any questions or comments before we wrap up?
I want to say something. I just want to say thank you, but I think it's important that we take time to process when you've gone through something like this. I remember when my mother had a mastectomy, and when she came in the house from coming home from the hospital, she said, "What just happened?" And I think a lot of times we just go headlong into life and into the next day and hit the floor running, and we don't take the time to pause and just say, what the heck just happened? And to kind of sort it all out and then go forward. So I just want to say thank you for giving us that chance to take a moment and process so we can go forward and be stronger.
You're more than welcome, Eileen, but you and I know each other for some time now. We do. But I want to tell you, you also said something so profound, because that is, I'm a strong believer in parallel process. So the same thing as you were saying that we should be doing with our family life all the time. So whether do it every day at dinner time, whether do it once a week, I do it once a month. Stop, process, and ask everyone, what did you learn this week? Not just what you learn in math and science, what did you learn about life? That's what resiliency is all about. And that's what builds resiliency. So those who go and buy all the textbooks, I want to know what to do to be resilient. What other questions? Nothing.
I just wanted to say that I want to thank you for this wonderful webinar and all this information. And I put myself, and wonder what kind of role model I was, as a parent, because you said, they mimic everything that we do. And one of the things that my takeaway with this is I definitely want to be a better role model. Now that I've always been resilient. I've been through a lot in life. But you just get so caught up in the moment, and you don't realize who's around you, including your kids, and how later on that affects them. So I will definitely be more mindful, and I thank you for that.
You're welcome. Any other questions? We still have a few minutes. Questions, comments?
I guess to piggyback on what Diana was saying, we were talking about the parenting piece. At least I was saying that you go from the stage of telling your children what they need to do so that they can be safe. And then there's a shift in that understanding that it's no longer just about telling them what to do, it's mentoring them through what they're doing. And it's asking the questions. That's why these questions are important for processing what's happening with yourself and with your kids. And we are resilient because we are in this job as a person who's had the experiences, and we're going to work with people who need that. They need someone that can relate and understand where they're coming from, at least on some level. You know, we teach that. I mean, at least I think that that's my goal when I'm working with my clients, is to impart that, you know, it is possible to work through this, that there are things that we can do to help to, you know, alleviate some of the issues that are happening. But at the same time, like, look, this is a way to grow. This is a way to move forward and show your kids, yeah, you're having a tough time. We're going to figure this out. We are going to make it happen. No matter what's happening around us, it's going to happen. But it's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Who else? I don't see most of you. I only see a few pictures or the video part of it.
Well, Dr. Banilivy, we don't have any additional comments in the chat.
Okay, no other. There's a hand up, Robin. There's a hand
No,
up.
I don't have my hand up.
No,
I already
there's no
got my gold stars.
There's no
And
hands
my
up.
brownies.
Yeah. Robin earned her keep for the day.
Very good. Very good. Maybe at some point, because of the you're champions in your own ways, because you have dealt with challenges already and you're here, right? So maybe all of us can work on a book and about how to not focus on the negative and how to grow with the negative, because that's what life is all about, right? We can all live when everything goes well and everything works out nicely and nothing bad happens, right? Nobody gets sick. Nobody has any challenges. We all have a good time. It really, negative gets a bad rap. That's the name of my book. Negative gets a bad rap. We all grow tremendously with challenges that we experience as being negative. This is the lesson plan for this week for everyone, including your kids. I hope you stay in touch. I hope, I'm sorry I had to rush through the PowerPoint. I just wanted to get some points across. And please feel free, email me at any time. I look forward to it. I'm early riser. The best time to email me is 5 in the morning. So, well, if there are no further questions, again, I thank you very much for your time and good luck, everyone.
All righty, but before everyone leave, Dr. Banilivy,
yes.
On behalf of Families Together, New York State, and the regional parent advisors, which is Pamela, Mona, Diana, Kim, Barbara, Sue, and Kathleen, and Heather, we would like to thank you for this presentation. Also, we give a great thanks to Kim, but Dr. Banilivy, thank you for actually making us pause, reflect, and recognize. So thank you for that.
Thank you for all of you. Thank you, Kim, for all your assistance. And make sure you do some self-care today. But the only requirement I have, Cheryl knows, whatever you choose to do has to be legal.
Hey, fun sucker. You're a fun
Bye.
sucker.
Just a few
Thank you.
reminders. A few reminders, guys.
Bye,
Stay
everybody.
online, please.
Bye.
Can everyone stay online? Do not leave, please.
Attendees or?
Attendees. We need all attendees online because Kim did throw in the form and information in the chat box. Please.
They got all that.
They got all of that?
They got all of that. And I will forward it in an email to attendees.
It's the survey. We want the survey
everything,
filled
just
out,
everything, everything. I will fill in everything.
Okay,
Thanks,
what
Kim.
about recording, PowerPoints, all of that is going to be on Families Together website?
Yes.
I assume so, but I will be, you're gonna get what you get from us, and that's all I gotta say. Y'all have, reach out to Families Together, reach out to your parent advisors, or if you're not an FPA, reach out to any of us at Families Together under Family Peer Support and your parent advisors. If you have any questions about this presentation, everybody who got the resources, you will find links for Dr. Banilivy along with all the other awesome stuff in your resources packet. And again, for FPAs, continuing education forms, you will find either by asking your supervisor, calling your parent advisor, or going to FTNYS website. But I did drop it in the chat, okay?
Where can we get the resource packet? Because it wasn't in the chat.
The resource packet was in the chat 3 or 4 times.
Oh, where?
And
Yeah.
to the beginning, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, I went to the very beginning and it wasn't there. Yeah.
It's at the beginning, it's in the middle, it's towards.
Yeah, I could copy and paste it and put it.
I don't know. No.
Anne-Marie, we can send it to you.
I will email all attendees with all the things that were dropped in the chat. You all don't want to be doing TA till 5 p.m. Everybody deserves be resilient, leave the Zoom, and go hug your kids. Go hug your kids, okay?
All right, I just put it.
All right, everybody.